There's another reason why it's hard to get closer to God every day, and that's this: we don't pay attention to the critical details of our lives. When I was younger, I read the story of the Ocean Ranger. It left a lifelong impression on me. The story of the Ocean Ranger is that in February of 1982, the Ocean Ranger was the world's largest offshore oil exploration rig. It was stationed 160 miles east of the coast of Newfoundland. More than 30 stories high, it was made to withstand 80-mile-per-hour winds and 35-foot high seas. It was virtually indestructible. And then, one night, a big storm whipped up. No one seemed alarmed. The Ocean Ranger had been through the biggest storms the Grand Banks had to offer. But when this huge wave broke a window in the control room and short-circuited a switch, no one seemed to notice. It was just one tiny little switch. What they didn't know was that this tiny switch had accidentally opened one of the valves in the giant pier-like stilts which supported the Ocean Ranger. The pier began to fill with water in the middle of the storm. The Ocean Ranger was already listing severely by the time the first Mayday was sounded. The seas were now up to 60 feet high, far too great for any rescue attempt. So soon the Ocean Ranger rested upside down on the ocean floor. It sank. All 84 crew members perished. All because no one paid attention to one little switch. One small detail had cost them their lives. Isn't it true that if we don't pay attention to the details of our lives, it can be very costly? Go through a red light and it could cost you your life. Leave your house unlocked and you could lose your possessions. We can't compose a piece of music, write a play, pass a test, drive a car, cook dinner, or raise a child without attention to detail. Now, there's one detail in our lives we can't afford to overlook. It's a daily time of connecting with God. I know it's easy to take for granted. We get busy, we fall behind in our schedules. We think, I'll make up for it tomorrow or the next day or even later today. But watch out. We're looking for trouble. Pay attention to what seems like a small detail that has a great significance in our lives. Lay hold of the tremendous power made available to us through a daily time of connecting with God. It's one of the most significant possessions of our lives. Don't get caught with a short circuit. And then there's hollow formalism. We get lost in hollow formalism. Years ago, I traveled through South America teaching pastors how to share their faith. It was a grueling 2 weeks. I made my way through Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, Chile. I stayed in flea bag hotels, ate food I didn't like, and drank lots of bottled water to avoid picking up anything that would make me sick. And then finally, I reached the end of my travels in Santiago, Chile. I was so happy to get there. The ministry was over. I was exhausted. I was staying in one of the better hotels downtown, and I couldn't wait for a nice hot shower and some time alone at the pool. Well, late in the afternoon, I took the elevator to the rooftop pool 5 stories above the town's main street. It was a beautiful day, crisp and clear. I looked forward to a moment to relax in the sun 4,000 miles away from home. I took the towel from my hotel room, headed for the poolside lounge chair. But when I got there, every chair was taken up by some of the tallest men I'd ever seen. Some were 6'9" or taller. Man, was I discouraged. I laid my towel down on the concrete along the side of the pool near 2 of the taller men who were stretched out in their lounge chairs. They were speaking English. I hadn't heard a group speaking English in almost 2 weeks. So we struck up a conversation. Their sentences were filled with words and jokes you'd only hear in a locker room, And at one point, I asked them, so who are you guys? And they said, we're the Harlem Globetrotters. We're waiting to play a game tonight at the Coliseum. You want a ticket? And then they asked me what I did. And I told them I was an Anglican priest. Man, I could see their minds go on rewind, wondering what words they'd used and what jokes they'd been telling. So finally, one guy, struggling to say something religious, blurted out with the best of intentions, Father, I always cross myself when I shoot a foul shot. I appreciated the effort. I mean, it's amazing how a simple gesture of crossing oneself, which is designed to acknowledge the presence of God, can so easily turn into shallow, hollow formalism. Form without content is nothing more than a good luck charm or a lucky rabbit's foot. It happens to all of us. Religious rituals and practices take the place of a real connection and relationship with God. It's so easy to slide into hollow, empty formalism when it comes to our relationship with God. It's something that we just do without a relationship, without a connection, without intimacy. It's easy to be religious people doing religious things and nothing more. But when it comes to connecting with God, we often settle for these hollow rituals. Yet none of them can lead us into intimacy with God. God has something better in mind. There's so much more he has to offer. There's another step. He wants us to have a spiritual encounter with his presence every day. He wants us to be on fire with passion and love for him. He wants to fill us. He wants our relationship with him to be the most important relationship in our lives. Don't settle for hollow rituals over connecting with God every single day. And then there's that we just don't know how to do it. Here's the most critical roadblock to intimacy with God. In talking with people for over 30 years, I've found that many people just don't know how to connect with God. They get stuck reading through the Bible in a year or doing a devotional that speaks to them yet never leads to intimacy. All of that's good, but that's not what I want to share with you. I want to share with you, if that's where you are, I want to share with you how to get one step closer to God, how to get spiritual intimacy with God. There's a difference between a Bible study and a devotional time and intimacy with God. A Bible study, and I happen to have attended seminary and studied the Bible in Greek and Hebrew. A Bible study and a devotional time, as important as they are, don't necessarily get us into the presence of God. That's why connecting with God can take you one step closer and deeper in your relationship with God, where you can find an intimacy with God you've never known before. Connecting with God is the most important thing we do. I mean, why is it that we tend to spend the most amount of time on the least important things and the least amount of time on the most important things? I'm convinced that connecting with God each day is the single most important thing we can do. It keeps us spiritually fit and morally strong. It fills the inner core of our lives with power and wholeness and teaches us how to draw closer to God and to the heart of God, who wants to know us and who wants us to know him as a loving Father. That's why there's no shortcuts to this kind of power. It can only come one way, by spending time alone with God. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important we can say than, I connected with God today. God wants us to have a daily time alone with him that far surpasses our wildest expectations. Connecting with God is designed to help you do that. It can help you to develop and deepen your relationship with God by providing certain tools and principles of spiritual growth that will grow you up into the presence of God. It can help build us in our relationship with God once and for all. Connecting with God is designed to deepen and strengthen our relationship with God every single day. Now let's get going.